most cases, the female body secretes one egg. After fertilization, it begins to divide, turning into an embryo in a few months, and then into a child. But sometimes the egg is divided into two parts, which later develop independently of each other. At the same time, it carries a set of chromosomes that are 99% identical. Therefore, children of the same sex are always born very similar to each other. They develop in the same placenta, so they can actively touch each other, get to know each other even before birth. With twins, the situation is completely different. In some cases, the female body secretes not one egg, but several, 2, 3 or even more. Well, a man releases hundreds of millions of sperm during sexual intercourse, so he can easily fertilize them all. Each of the fertilized eggs begins to actively divide, but the set of chromosomes will already be different. Because of this, children born at the same time are completely different from each other and may even have different genders. They were nicknamed the royal twins. Some can develop faster and others slower. As a result, quite often others think that one brother or sister is older than the other and do not even realize that they were born at the same time. There is still no clear opinion on this issue, although research has been conducted for more than 1 year. The most plausible version is associative memory. A person hears some kind of music under certain circumstances and subconsciously connects them. The circumstances can be very different: stress, a certain place, or any other. Subsequently, experiencing the same circumstances, a person remembers the song and it is likely that it will be spinning in his head for quite a long time. As statistics show, about 98% of people face obsessive melody syndrome, and this happens most often with musicians. But there is also a higher risk of such a syndrome in people suffering from compulsive disorder. That is, the habit of performing some rituals, knocking on the door 3 times, washing their hands twice in a row, and so on. But there are no differences between women and men. Representatives of both sexes face the syndrome equally. However, for men it lasts less and does not irritate them so much. Interestingly, songs are much more often stuck in the head. That is, music with words. They account for about 74% of cases of the syndrome. Instrumental music is significantly less, only 8%. To better understand the issue, you need to understand how soap works in general and why it is needed. Everyone knows that we are surrounded by bacteria. They are found almost everywhere: a handrail on the bus, banknotes and coins, a familiar keyboard and, of course, a smartphone that accompanies the owner always and everywhere. Moreover, it is quite difficult for bacteria to stay on the clean surface of the skin, but on the fat lubricant, which is produced by the glands of external secretion. They feel great and can actively reproduce here. How does soap work? It contains surfactants that destroy the connection between the fat layer and the skin, allowing you to easily wash off the first one when washing your hands, easily and quickly getting rid of any bacteria. Of course, thanks to advertising, many people have come to believe that soap destroys bacteria. In fact, such varieties do exist. To make the product more attractive to the consumer, manufacturers add special antibiotics to it. But this approach has many disadvantages. First of all, the cost of soap increases significantly. Perhaps even more importantly, harmful microorganisms get used to different types of antibiotics very quickly, becoming invulnerable to them and much more dangerous. Finally, the drugs used usually destroy only single groups of bacteria, and not 99% at all, as claimed in the advertisement. With all these disadvantages, there are simply no serious advantages of soap with antibiotics compared to the usual one. After all, the most ordinary thing, even if it does not kill bacteria, but cleanses your hands of them qualitatively, allowing you to easily solve the problem without creating several new ones. Water is the most important substance that allows all living things on planet Earth to exist. What happens if all the liquid suddenly evaporates? What will our planet look like and how much will it change? We will try to deal with this interesting issue using modern and verified data for this purpose. Some experts claim that if you remove all the water from the planet, then numerous irregularities will be exposed, because of which it will be simply impossible to recognize the Earth. Let's just give a few numbers for this, so that everyone understands for themselves that this statement is an ordinary myth. The average depth of the oceans is 3.8 kilometers. Even the legendary Mariana Trench, the deepest place on the planet, falls just short of 11 kilometers. It would seem really impressive data. It's hard to even imagine such a volume of water. But what is the diameter of the planet Earth? If we take the average, then it will be equal to 12,700 kilometers. And what does 3.8 kilometers represent against such a background? Even if you remove all the water from the planet, it is simply impossible to notice a difference of 0.3% with the naked eye. And even the Mariana Trench will look like a tiny depression that you might not even notice. Therefore, although water plays an important role in the life of all living things on the planet, for the Earth itself, as an astronomical body, it is not too important, and even more so it is not able to even out the irregularities on the surface. So, if you come across a picture walking on the internet and showing how the Earth looks without water, a small spoiler is a curved fragment with numerous uneven protrusions in the area of the continents, then you can safely say that this is just another myth. Probably, everyone has seen single birds, and sometimes whole flocks of birds, sitting comfortably on power lines. Why aren't they electrocuted? The question is really very entertaining, requiring some knowledge of the theory so that you can figure it out. We will try to do this in the most accessible way possible. One of the reasons why a bird does not receive an electric shock when sitting on bare wires is the high resistance. When it sits down, the current can reach from one point to another in two ways, through a bird or through a metal wire. Of course, he chooses the second option because according to all the laws of physics, he follows the path of least resistance. An equally important reason why the bird is not electrocuted is the lack of grounding. In fact, what is an electric shock? This is the moment when charged particles pass through a living being if it closes the circuit, becoming a conductor for a while. For example, a person may well stand on a rubber mat and stick a nail into an outlet, practically without risking an electric shock, but it's better not to do this at home. But as soon as he touches a metal object with his hand, charged particles will instantly rush to this object and through a living body, often leading to its death. Do birds have grounding? Of course not. They just sit on the same wire, and the current has nowhere to go through them. What happens if the grounding appears? Of course, the bird will instantly die, because a discharge of thousands or even tens and hundreds of thousands of volts will pass through it. This happens most often with large birds, eagles and others. But they don't just sit on the wires, holding onto them tightly with both paws. In this case, nothing will happen to them for sure. But if a proud eagle sits on a wire, holding onto it with one paw, and touches, for example, a metal support with the other or wing, it will create an additional circuit through which the current will immediately flow. The consequences for the bird will be very sad. However, in recent years, in order to avoid this, several meters of wire in the immediate vicinity of the support are covered with special insulators. Sitting on them, a bird can try to close the circuit at least all day. It will not harm it.